The audio you're about to hear is raw, unfiltered, and like cocaine from Colombia, it's uncut. Based on true events they're known by, and strictly for comedic and entertainment purposes only. Stay woke, humans. Viewers' discretion has been advised.
Good news, good news. It's all good news for you. It's all good news for you. Good news.
Ladies, gentlemen, and to all my Reese's pieces in between, this is your guy. This is your host. This is Soap Apple again with another episode of the Soap Apple Incognito Podcast. That AKA, the Spick Podcast.
It's all good news for you.
Back to you with consistency, determination, a hot box, many different things. Duly note, though, that we are set to have, and mind you, this is strictly speculation and rumor, but it's coming from a good source, that there should be another episode of the Arizona Soap Podcast with the, dynamic duo that is I and Arizona Verse once again. Again, we hope that it's going to come sometime soon, so do be advised of that. And also be aware, if ever you wanted to reach me, you can always at SOULPAPO. Again, that's at Soap Apple on most social medias. The Twitters, the Snapchats, the Tumblrs. Even though I got to get on that thing more. I got to do a whole lot more social media pushing. But again, if ever you want to become a producer of the show, by all means, you go to patreon.com/Soap Apple. Wherever you can plug that bitch in, do so at Gmail. But of course, if ever you wanted to visit the main show website, then that's just ArizonaSoulPodcast.com. And anywhere else you could plug it into social medias. Don't forget that we have a voicemail line where you could drop and leave a message by just calling the area code 480-588-4688. Again, area code phone number 480-588-4688. I hope to hear from you soon. Lord, yes. So one of the repeating things that's been in the news as of late has been the case with Jamie Cross and Jake Patterson. That was a little 12-year-old, 13-year-old girl from Wisconsin that was taken, legit, pulled out of her house. Dude steps in with a shotgun, kills mom, kills dad, or kills dad, kills mom, and then takes daughter. And they finally sentenced his ass, which you figured, I was just waiting for, the conspiracy theorist, the racist in me, just waiting for them to let him go with something. But one thing that, if any of you guys who are very dark in your beliefs, and we're thinking, hey, yeah, they're gonna, I don't know, give him a fucking medal or some shit. Well, you mess with a white woman, oh, you get the horns. And he got, I think, 2 life sentences, definitely at least life in prison. And of course, they didn't show the victim, and but I think they read a testimony of hers. And what was a little bit odd, because nothing was odd about it, other than how fucked up the whole situation was about her being torn and losing her family, and then nowhere did it really mention anything of losing of innocence, nor does it kind of give any speculation to matters of rape. Now, not that I would want for them to glorify that to begin with, but you would think that that's what this situation was based off of, unless it was just a sick and twisted version of, oh, I want her, I want to protect her, and and whatever sort of Dungeons and Dragons fantasy this motherfucker probably follows. I was thinking that was going to be the case. I'm thinking that she's going to be tortured and all this other stuff, when really the only sort of news or details that ever came out was that he'd had to hide her when he'd have friends over or something like that. So it's weird that obviously she was playing along, and I can imagine that when you're the victim, of course you're gonna fucking listen to what this person says. They just literally tore down your family with a fucking weapon. So what what do you do to you? So I can understand that, and I can understand just being well behaved, because you figure if you play along, you get along. But at the same time, nothing was ever mentioned as to why he would be so twisted and demented to do such a heinous act, unless it was for something grotesque and perverted. Now again, not even to give this guy any fucking leniency at all, because maybe that wasn't the case, and in some weird outside of, I guess, what is the norm with such situations or reasons to, go throughout the level that you went through in this consideration, then it makes you wonder, like, wow, was he not then an evil bastard, other than, of course, being a fucking murderous one? And I was a little bit upset that they didn't go into any of those details, but mind you, again, this person is surviving. This person, clearly has this guy by the balls because of a literal, factual murder that, even he admitted to. I'm wondering if it just wasn't necessary to bring up those sort of things, but you'd figure they would have run that, like a rape kit on her or something like that. Maybe because she's underage, that sort of information is best kept private. Again, I don't know exactly how it works, but it just seemed a little bit odd. And just seemed a little out of place. And then wouldn't you know that, when you see this poster boy of I guess, fucked assness or fuck boyness or however, the youngins call it, that it would be someone that's just so goddamn fucking nerdy. And it's funny that we choose, or, again, not we necessarily mean you who are listening, but more so the they and them that are the powers that be, the poster boys that they pick. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want some kind of super thug, when it comes to, the black demographics, so we can make them scary, so we can make them, make others precautious, and then you show the sadistic white guy, and he just looks like, someone who I think was playing Pokemon Go just the other day ago, trying to get a Charizard, and wouldn't you fucking know he's doing these kind of shenanigans. And it almost kind of, in a meta thinking way too deeply into this shit than is probably necessary, makes you wonder, like, what are we being set up for? What is it that they're trying to stack up against so that, for whenever needle that drops doesn't happen to, rip everything at the seams along with it, which is maybe what we need in the sort of sphere to flush out our demons. There was another situation, again, almost kind of similar to this. Doesn't exactly state how it happens, how it goes down, but there was a woman who jumped out from a window to try to escape a rape that was lasting 6 hours, in Queens, no less. And apparently the suspect's on the loose. Now, what messes me up is that the bad guy in this case, Michael Ho Zhang, who is a very good-looking brother from the looks of it. He's 53 years old, fucking around with some 29-year-old that I don't think they released the name of, but he was raping this bitch for 6 hours. Now, part of me makes me wonder, well, was this just an old player, and maybe they met at the club, and this went way beyond the realm of and I don't mean to fucking laugh, because consent is very valid and needs to, always be acknowledged and addressed and determined, before proceeding forward, beyond the flirtation, beyond this, beyond that. And I can understand not wanting to break the mood or have to be that noob that has to ask, but unfortunately, that's kind of the situation. So it's either make or break when you say such things, but maybe there's more players ways to go about them. I don't know, but this situation, though, again, because there was no information released as to how they met, how they encountered, how he snatched her up. By the picture that they chose, it looks like I'm looking at a fucking selfie of the night that they met. And I mean, he looks pretty dastardly. There's no doubt about that. And it makes me think about, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Spun. It was with John Leguizamo, Brittany Murphy. I guess there was a couple other actors that can't come to mind. Fucking Josh Peck when he was, a little butterball stage. And it's about people that are just kind of spun out on fucking, I don't know if it's crack or meth, or I don't know if that's the same thing. Crystal. I don't know the exact specifics, but these shits were definitely uppers, and it was fucking with their head, and you've seen the type. If you've been in Arizona and you see these motherfuckers doped up in the streets, fucking petrified, but yet somehow not melting, but somehow already fried. Yes, you know the types when you see them. Anyways, there's a scene where, oh man, big Jewish schnoz too. I can't, Jason Schwartz, maybe? He ends up fucking some stripper, which just seemed a little bit out of character considering how he looked, but you know what I'm saying? For the man who has the money, has the power, and has the drugs, usually a hoe too is known to be about. But yeah, he was, they consensually, doing their thing. and because he is caught up in some kind of chauffeur, like oh fuck, he's the little lap boy of Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke looking very Mickey Rourke in this motherfucker, cowboy hat and all. Like, I just feel like they just told this thing, hey, come on the set, man. Wardrobe, no, just whatever the fuck you're wearing. I'm pretty sure it'll be perfect, and they sure shit was. And this was pre-Breaking Bad days, so the fact that this was kind of already out there, because it is what it is, and broadcasting is only relevant to the time that it's in. Goes to explaining it and without saying. But yeah, so I'm wondering if Mr. Michael Hosang, if he was just happy to be getting it in, and it just went a little bit too far. Motherfucker had to take a call, and that call ended up making him take a drive, and she just got stuck with duct tape on her mouth, eyes, chain linked butt naked to the bed, with only some kind of nerdcore, new metal, fucking scream postmodern, whatever the fuck shit's called, just blasting in the background to only be saved by a young dyke who wanted her only for herself. But again, this bitch made it to police, so I don't know if the other stuff happened, but I'm making more reference to the movie Spun. And I, under normal circumstances, me wanting to advise of such a story cannot more highly recommend it now, unless it can give any kind of light to this sort of fucking picture. But it's crazy. And again, this happens so much that it's weird that these things, whether to not shine light on them for glory purposes or to just not speak of such indecencies for too long, it's kind of baffling that this stuff doesn't get outed more, so that it could hopefully hurt us enough to want to, not to say play captain, save them, because you're going to live a life of regret doing that, but to more or less be a righteous person and to, not allow for such fuckery to happen. And again, there's two sides, and we don't know, other than that this motherfucker is missing, which only points to him being more guilty than not. And again, just trying to go about how to stop things, but why is it our responsibility? Why is it your responsibility? Why should you take yourself away from where you are in order to do something that you may not feel is your responsibility to do? Now, that's very granted, and I can understand, why would that be your fault? Why is that your purpose? But sometimes, fuck, dude. What's scary is that you just how the Bible says, not nor the day, nor the location, the time, or whatever the fuck, and to find yourself, just smack dab into the shits of sorts. Again, I'm going about Mr. Dwayne Craddock, who was one of this I guess the next poster boy of fuckboy assness that did a little mass shooting of sorts, and the Virginia Beach shooting, which just recently had popped off, and to think that we're going into the weekend. You couldn't enjoy your weekend, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Sure, they fucking didn't invite your ass, and you left there jerking off, but at your own accord, and a little bit awkward because people hadn't left the room yet before you started doing it. You know what I'm saying? You don't gotta do all that. But again, the psyche and the metadata that I feel is being collected on us, and we'll go into that with tech news later on. Actually, I don't know if I mentioned before about Alexa telling if you're depressed or not, but this dude who, again, right now, as the story develops, we're able to get more and more details, but this motherfucker had a literal violent past in his work history. And again, to think that in most circumstances, and this is the problem when you do references or when you move on from one job to the next. If you're lucky, they're just going to verify times and dates and hopefully not get too deep into the pho. In some places they do their due diligence because, hey, this is good shit to know, because maybe we're dealing with time sensitive or high pressure, sort of arrangements that, again, can cause fuses to break. You know what I'm saying? You can cause burnout, and we'll talk more about that. There's always themes in these things. I'm real slept on, but anyways, one of the main things that I feel gets very unconsidered when dealing with, I guess, overall stress or ways that we go about life is where we, you know what I'm saying, commit most of our time to. Now, for those that have to work 9 to 5s, more than likely where you commit your time to most, unfortunately, is your job. You know, and that's not even considering the, you know, if you're not lucky enough to work from home, that the twos and fros to get to such place and then back home again. That's all the same time. You know, you're using that same time unless you're doing the most and, I don't know, you're making fucking deliveries or, you know, zigging and zagging from point A to point B in order to achieve other things. More than likely, that's how you're divvying up everything. And I feel that kind of not too unlike, I guess, cause the addictions for gambling, right? You know, to be in the casino, the want to win, the thrill of the rush, and all that other nonsense that to me doesn't make any sense. But again, we each have our demons, and we all pick our own poisons and sow our own seeds. And in that same respect, I mean, there's so much that again can be swept away, that can be ignored, that can maybe not even give too many, you know, afterthoughts towards, because again, it's so minuscule in someone else's eyes that it can be disregarded and ignored and unnoticed. And then unfortunately situations arise where it's another volcano eruption that just unfortunately was at the right place at the wrong time, and you know, it got set off, so to speak. And again, never to give any sort of understanding, even though of course we all deserve some sort of understanding. When you truly, and again, because of what led you to be somewhere and what pushed you to be somewhere, you know, people can say all day, oh well, if you don't like it, leave. But unfortunately, it's not as easy as that. And when you have I don't know, a passion or a movement to want to do something, obviously the only one to restrict you is yourself, unless, you know, you're waiting for that, you know, for that, I guess, for that bomb to pop. And unfortunately, again, this guy, not knowing his background, just knowing that so far we've released and we know enough of that, it would make the car, and again, and brother was black, so you're going to already have mad racists assuming that it's a matter of that and a matter of fact, and, you know, all these other preconceived notions that go along with it. But in that same respect, if you're going to think that way, then also think you have that many people that hate you, that many people that are against you, that many more that don't wish any sort of well for you. Well, when you feel, I don't know if you've ever felt that way before, but when you feel like that, then it is you against the world. And you're bumping some kind of fucking Tupac, and, you know, you feel mad fucking motivated to ride on your enemies because, you know, the enemies of my enemies, my friends, but whatever the fuck, they're all pretty much an enemy. For if you're not with me, then you're against me. And again, and that sort of thinking unto itself is just a fucking dice roll, a cluster shit fuck stack of who the hell knows with his fucking, is it Juno? Not Juno. Uno? Was it Jenga? Where you gotta pull out? I don't know too much about that. I got kids. But yeah, so imagine, you know, just having to have that constant fear. I'm pretty sure it's going to leave you unnerved. I'm pretty sure it's going to leave you on edge. And I'm pretty fucking sure it just takes the wrong fucking day when you on I wish a nigga would mode, and then fucking Thomas the Train really could and did. And unfortunately that succession led to an eruption that, you know, popped off where it shouldn't have been. And it's not funny, but it's interesting. Just the patterns of kind of where we see this stuff, and fuck shit happens every which way, and, you know, you can't predict that shit either. But wasn't it not too long ago, around the same time, how about the Virginia Tech shooting? And I guess, you know, it's different. There's often shits down there, but then you start looking at demographics. You know what I'm saying? And then I think most def pre-crack era, and, you know, you're putting, again, all these people in a box, all these monkeys in a barrel, so to speak, for all my racists out there. And again, just this stuff pops off, and how do you prevent against it? How can you stop it? What, again, can you do other than proceed forward with technology wanting to take over and ease into the skillets of our shit. And I say that again, referencing Facebook's want to or endeavor on creating this AI that can read your thoughts, or again allow you to control their platform using your mind. So mind you, if you've created a vessel if you've created a remote, and this remote happens to be planted in our head, and again, supposedly we're the ones obviously who have control to use it, there's always a fucking back door for the software creator. So again, they have this ability to, do what they want, whether it's considered monitoring or whether it's called doing maintenance. They have a way of, think about it. If you're using it, why wouldn't the person who created it use it or have access to it? And of course, there's fucking terms and conditions that we don't fucking read. So I'm just thinking more again where that's gonna go, how that's gonna develop, and we've seen, and I don't know how these things leak, because obviously if you're doing some I guess people who get fired or people who, maybe find something better and say fuck it, I don't mind bringing this up or putting this to the public. Snapchat employees were recently, there's I guess a documentary through Vice talking about how they abuse that data access and how they spy on users. And wouldn't you think if you had access to certain things and you felt a certain way you felt about a certain person, maybe an ex, maybe a colleague, maybe whoever the fuck you can't stand, and you maybe wanted to see a little something? That's too much power to have that's too much access to have that's too much power and access and everything else and temptation to have and not do something or have that cross your mind. And man, ethics be damned when you're pissed, right? Isn't what's the saying about how have no fear like a woman scorned? You know what I'm saying? That's probably the most fearsome things I could ever think of, because, no one than those closest to you know how best to defeat you. And, yeah. Because then it makes me want to think of the saying, was it, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. And think on some fucking Angelina Jolie, no pun intended, with the times that they're in right now kind of situation. Mr. and Mr. Smith with spy versus spy, and this one having to outwit the other one and use everything against them. Which again, we're in the entertainment news right now, but because I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a short show, maybe I'll throw that fucking in there too. There's been some real shystiness with how she's been using the kids' tourism, and that's always the one defense trick that you can't help but use against your partner, and that's the thing that can either make you or break you depending on how you want your image to be. But yeah, fucking I think I talked about it in one of the last episodes about how Maddox, the first little Cambodian kid that they adopted, he's obviously taking mom's side, because I'm pretty sure he gets to see the bullshit that happens to mom and dad, and usually, it is the dad being the aggressor. Not always, because I come from that, but at the same time, we have propane and flame, and are they not already in Downston fucking one? Before you fucking light him up with the other. But to not fucking go into that, back into the technology of things, the notion that there's this thing that exists for only 24 hours and then no longer, that's their biggest ploy. That's their biggest, I don't want to say niche thing, but that's their whole bread and butter. That's what spawned the curiosity of, again, not having to live in the background, but to live in the moment, and then eventually the stories and the repeats and the things of that nature that every social media shit shares. That is something that we don't really think about, because again, we're so consumed in all the other shit that has our attention, and we can only process so many things. You know what I'm saying? There's never anything new under the sun, but yet somehow we're able to do fucking 158 of them at once. And again, we get lost in the sauce of it. So again, we don't take notice and we don't recall of things of the past until, again, it gets brought into our attention, until all of a sudden, oh, look what happened a year ago or 2 years ago. And again, that's as far as what we think about it. But we're creating all this storage of shit, whether it be, nudes that you send back to one another, or whether it be, whatever sort of fuckery and messages, or whether it be just whatever innocence things that you don't mind seeing again. But it's a mixture of everything, and all of it is being saved. And again, the fact that we're gonna have something if not implanted into us, then something that we're certainly given permission to use. And while we're using it, how can, with all their amount of access and resources, could they not be doing something else while, they're entertaining us with the little thing that we think that we're controlling or that we truly are, and then have them, do whatever the fuck they want. And we're gonna allow this to happen, and this is gonna shape and create and continue a trend to where it's gonna be unavoidable in the future. It's gonna be something that's not monetary. It's gonna be something that's a staple. That again is gonna become the norm. Once you control the norm, you fucking control the narrative, which again is what makes media sites in general, whether it be social or whether it be what we consider news and and updates, to not be that or opinion based, or saying something to where again it's not anything more than the facts. And I trust anyone who listens to this is also going to share that. Normally I try to entertain y'all, especially with the new advisors they start putting on the beginning of the shows. I normally try to get into that more, but motherfucker, I'm stirred. I'm stir fried. I don't know if I told y'all this recently. I had to I gave my office to my mother-in-law, both to make amends and also to show some sort of appreciation. And wouldn't it be a goddamn hickory do that I decided to do that during the summertime, beginning of the summertime. Luckily, the year beginning, thanks to climate change, aka global warming, it's been decent the first week. Because it's been freakishly odd than what it normally is, which lets me know once the ball starts rolling, it's gonna be something insane. But yet somehow I'm in my garage, making do with what is mine, and also with again trying to create a safe space where I can create. But I'm cooking myself retarded in here, yo, like real talk. So again, hopefully I don't lose my shit in the process of this recording. Now, in that same essence of losing this shit, there's an interesting story that actually no, I'm going to save this next one for whenever me and Arizona Verse get on another episode of the Arizona Soul Podcast. But one of the things that I guess just in the sheer segue of losing your shit, I didn't realize that the executions were being a thing up in North Korea, and nor did I feel like it was any reason to have to be precautious as far as we go, because at least to my brothers and sisters in the Southwest, we are the United States, and we fought from there. But apparently, again, it's becoming a different whole endeavor into itself. Alright, so in North Korea, as per Kim Jong-un's notorious track record and what's the word? Not reverence, but oh man, I'm forgetting the word. But just from all in which he is touted over, yes, that one. He isn't one to sleep on having to put fucking the hammer down. His dad was known for killing one of his uncles, that dude's brother, because of some kind of treason shit that he tried to pin him on. And again, who knows whether or not that's true or fake? They definitely don't fuck around, whether they're trying to send a message or they're trying to do other things. So I guess there's just been executions gone crazy, or again, just from a political aspect to where, again, it's a flexing of muscles. Just how, anything that you see done through social media as a precautionary thing to, it's to set some kind of precedent. It's to, again, to indicate that, they're of one way or of a certain mind. One of the things that kind of upset me, and mind you, I'm neither for nor against, but at the same time, it's upsetting. Because of Salesforce, if for those who work retail know, and those who don't, it's just I guess a way of making the systems easier to sell said products, whether it's creating inventory, giving a kiosk database. It's a computer software system, but they create they're a crucial part in a lot of just sales in general, as suggests the name, and they notoriously were given a lot of shit, for assisting with Backpages. Backpages, who again, for those folks that aren't familiar, is a way to get some fucking ass and titties in your face, whether that be via dance or via, some kind of hooker-like activity. And again, promoting and being for, and pushing one of the oldest religions in the book, right? One of the oldest professions, right? One of the biggest money makers, one of the most profitable things, because, you douche and you scrub that ass, and hey, you got yourself a new product all over again. Or if not as good as new, right? I guess depending on your customer service experience. And Salesforce, again, the reason why I'm bringing this up is that they're saying that they don't want to work with retailers that sell automatic weapons. And the biggest push about this is for those that are doing the 3D printing. Again, whoever it is that these motherfuckers in the back pocket of, and I would definitely think some kind of political alignment, no doubt, because, as we all know, unfortunately, when in the barter system of ass, grass, or cash, that's definitely something that lobbyists get used and are considered gifts. But I won't go into all that. So you figure there's a political push for those that, again, get and maybe earn the most income, selling arms and, getting it to these third world countries that are willing to give you gold or some kind of precious metal that's worth a whole lot more than this fucking steel, that seems to be the only thing that we ever fucking produce, and putting it into the hands of others. And yet they're taking this political stand, well, I guess what appears to me to be a political stand, to not embrace, because, again, maybe it's digging in the pockets of others. So the fact that, again, they'll properly sell pussy, and again, that contributes to trafficking and, human, whatchamacallits, trafficking all at once, so that's not good. But then these shits that create, the copy the motherfucker's ass, well, that's not good either. But at the same time, look where you're standing. Look at how, was it Alabama? Is it Missouri? The ones that, trying to ban abortion. There's really one fucking last clinic in the whole goddamn state, and they're trying to shut that shit down. It's wild. And again, it shows where you stand, but at such a ridiculous cost that what the fuck is the reason for it? To what do you owe this fucking displeasure that you must fight for this? And I don't even understand how it can be a religious point of view. Because as a fucking religious man, as a Bible thumper of sorts, how could you be that moved? And then at the same time, how can you stop the one thing that the Lord gave us, which is free will, and then prejudge them and not even give them that access? Look, if they're going to sin, how the fuck does that take the grace out of your mouth, or out of your soul, or out of your pocket, or wherever it is the fuck you think you're accumulating and storing this shit? Karma bank points. Why is it for you to do that? Unless you feel that God put you here as a judge, in which case, where the fuck is your gavel? What the fuck does it even mean? Same with the dude, little Indian guy who fucking torched himself on fire outside the White House not too long ago. I was trying to pull up a data as to when that happened, but dude just fucking drenched, did it, and of course, it took them, because it's a 52-acre park, it took a little while to get to his ass, so I'm not too sure how crispy or well done he was at this point. He didn't last very long. And he died, and again, that wasn't too much of a shocker considering all that happened, but he lasted for a little while. I heard nothing of it. No reasoning as to why he would have done it. No excuse for, how they dealt with it. And it worries me, because you figure if we should ever know about something, because mind you, it could be our business, it could not be our business, but to make such a statement, how could we go not knowing that? That seems like it could be a bit of importance if someone's going to go through such an extremity. Could it have been a situation to where most, I don't know, I mean, I'm quoting fucking Tommy Chong, so I don't know how strong of a source this is, but it makes fucking sense. People who are down in the dumps, who maybe don't have health care will fucking go and commit a crime because it's somehow something that gets them into federal prison. Because if they do, and I don't know, they need some kind of emergency tracheotomy or some kind of fucking heart surgery, some kind of transplant, they're by federal law, obligated to obtain such service because of, the detention by who's fucking holding them in there. You know what I'm saying? You figure, well, they gotta pay the bill, right? So you figure people are going to do some shiesty shit to be able to get their ass in the place that they need to in order to get what they need. It only makes sense. Unless I'm just that far off the fucking Richter. So again, I say that to say, what could this motherfucker have wanted to say, wanted to do, just to, by fucking torching himself on fire. Obviously, he probably didn't intend to survive, but he had to been wanting to give a message. Again, we never even got the ability to fucking hear it. I mean, shit, if we give motherfuckers Glory who, I don't know, kill the whole fucking concert, then why the fuck wouldn't we give someone who, again, made it to this nation's capital to say something, and yet we silence him by not acknowledging it? Again, yeah, we don't want to encourage more motherfuckers to do such shit, but goddamn, that also definitely shuts down the notion of to be extreme is to get extreme results. Because, I figure that's the jihadi code, right? You got to go big or go home, son. But if you're not even making any fucking dent, if you're not even voicing what it is that, had led you to this in the first place, well then fuck, why do it? Maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's what they're trying to accomplish by weakening those that are easily leg swept. Fucking Karate Kid, sweep the leg, Johnny. What good is it if they're all on their ass? Speaking of keeping the hoes on their ass, Tinder's beginning 2 tests today that might entice more people to pay for the dating app. One of the tests builds on top of the app's paid subscriptions, Tinder Gold and Tinder Plus. I had no idea those existed. By offering some subscribers the opportunity to break the algorithm and push their profile to the top of people's potential match stacks. Non-subscribers can participate in other tests that allow them to pay to view read receipts on chats. So I guess those is for those people who, they done got ghosted and don't know whether to let go or not. I guess to those, they would be worth that price unless you keep it pimping, keep it moving. It says these users can pay to turn read receipts on for individual chat threads. So they'll be able to see when a match reads their message. Only the person who upgraded the chat will be able to view the read receipts, but both people will have the option to turn read receipts off. Read receipts will be turned on by default, however, so to be sure to turn them off if you don't want other people to know you read a message. And I guess the read receipts feature can be purchased in packs and then applied to specific chats. That sounds like they're really trying to, because you figure you got to be talking to a lot of people. So if they're charging you per certain quantity or amounts, that's such a fucking ball squeeze. But I guess that's the main point of trying to get your balls licked. Squeeze in there as well. It says other dating apps also offer read receipts as paid upgrades, including the League and OkCupid, but bringing the Tinder feels particularly ruthless, if only because it's an app where lots of people match and then drop off from chatting. This person states, I like to convince myself someone stopped responding because they fell in love and stopped checking the app. It'd be terrible to know a message was read and doomed or deemed not worthy of response. Still, I'm sure plenty of people will want the answer, and I guess if their date died or something, so it would seem to be a promising feature, at least for generating money for Tinder, no doubt. So again, there's a bunch of other updates and shit that, it's been so long. I feel like such a man, even though, you already know. It trips me out of how just simple it is to, be able to, hop in, meet someone, meet them, maybe get right to business, and that's very scary. Again, it can lead some people down the looking very right path. All right, so I'm forgetting where I was saying, but it has to be a scary thing again in technology. It adds more to all the anxiety. That's what I wanted to mention. So I can imagine that feature being something that would help, and at the same time, it's going to be something that's going to definitely make motherfuckers have to pay. And unfortunately, sometimes when our heart is way too heavy on our sleeve, and it's on our shoulders, and it becomes a fucking hard-boiled chip. You know what I'm saying? It could probably dig into the fucking walls of a lot of psychoses, to say the fucking least. But I guess in that same respect, if I could switch this motherfucker into entertainment news, Harvey Weinstein, he finally reached a settlement. All the lives that he hurt and all the women that he scorned, and he was able to fucking settle for $44 million. That's 30-something odd being to the actual victims, and that's, 10 to 14 million going to lawyer fees that he had to, pay for, I guess, on both ends. So it's a trip. And mind you, this isn't money that's coming out of this motherfucker's wallet. No, this is money coming from the Weinstein's insurance. Because, again, unfortunately, just how there's an app for everything, there's also budgets for said settlements and things of that nature. And he's making a lot of money and raping a whole lot of bitches in the fucking process. So you can imagine that fund is well lubricated. And it's messed up to think, and it's kind of shitty to have to hear. And I don't know if it was not Jodie Foster. Was it that was the only one that really wanted to stand and not accept the settlement, not to think. And mind you, and it could be because maybe it's been one has tired themselves on both talking about it, reliving it, and having to explain to where maybe it then finally does become, they fucking kept right until the fucking well ran dry, and maybe that's where they finally figured out, let's cash in, let's cash out already. And I don't know whether or not that's the case, but if it is, that kind of, I don't know what that says to those who maybe are still being victimized, or maybe those who again wanted for there to be more justice than this dude going to a fucking spa out here in Scottsdale, for some rest, relaxation, and supposedly some kind of detoxing of sexual sins. Which, mind you, the Arizona sun, it can definitely melt it melts the paint off of traffic signs. So why the fuck would it not, wash you of your fucking sins? I'm sure, right? I'm sure. But the thing that he kind of gets half high and dry like that, I'm just kind of curious as to how long it's going to take for him to go back into the movie business. How long is it going to be until he's greenlighting something or producing something or working on the set of something? I don't know. As a fucking, he's not going to be a goddamn analyst, but you know what I'm saying? I wonder. And what's that going to say to others? What's that going to say to those two, who are still in power? Shit, if anything, because I'm pretty sure if they say that the gay agenda or gay mafia is, most notorious up in Hollywood, I can't imagine what kind of shit they're fucking doing to little boys. God bless. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't get a big nigga like Terry Crews, to be as shook as he was if it wasn't motherfuckers with some extreme audacity. Fucking name. Quick R.I.P. shout out to singer Leon Redbone, who this cat was kind of, awkward segue to fucking throw him out there. This dude was very old school before old school was hip. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, one of the original hipsters. Dude died at 69, which is a beautiful age, I guess, to go out in that respect. But, and like I said, I threw out the short one to kind of throw a little underhand here real quick of more questions as to whether it's the egg or the chicken that came first. The chicken and the egg, however you like to fucking phrase it. Why couldn't I say it in a different reverse style? And how the question of nurture versus nature, if that kind of curves both the appetites and the things that we desire individually. More precisely, I'm talking about Ellen DeGeneres, and I guess her mom had broke the silence on daughter's sexual abuse claims that apparently she had, lived to regret. Now, Betty DeGeneres, who, by the way, again, throwing fucking hard with the soft, Lil Nas X was recently tweeting after he was on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and when he tweeted her name, he said Ellen the Generous, and then even when some bitch tried to correct him, say it's DeGeneres, she was like, oh, is she not generous though? So again, saving ourselves by own ignorance. Anyways, the mother of Ellen DeGeneres, she's speaking out for the first time about her daughter's claim that Betty did not believe her when Ellen said that she was sexually assaulted by her late stepfather as a teenager. Now, Ellen had revealed details of the abuse and how it was affected her relationship with her mother. And this all came out in an emotional interview with David Letterman. I haven't watched the one with Kanye yet. I've been very interested to do so. But for an episode that they have there on Netflix. Now, this one, again, goes on to advise how, Betty DeGeneres, who's 89, she had been a frequent guest on her daughter's daytime talk show over the years. She responded to Ellen's interview with Letterman to an exclusive statement that was provided to NBC saying, I know how the one of the heart, I know that none, what, shut this shit over. I know now that one of the hardest things to do is to speak up after being sexually abused. She says, I love my daughter, and I wish I would have the capacity to listen to her when she told me what had happened. She goes, I live with regret and wouldn't want that for any other parent. If someone in your life has the courage to speak out, please believe them. Now, Ellen, who's now 61, had previously opened up to Savannah Guthrie on the Today back in October about being abused when she was a teen, but declined to go into any detail at the time. Now, she revealed specifics in an interview with Letterman, saying that the abuse started when she was 15. Her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, had a mastectomy, and then said that her stepfather used the information to sexually assault her. She goes on, DeGeneres was quoted saying that he told me when she was out of town that he'd felt a lump in her breast and needed to feel my breast. I guess he convinced her that, he needs to feel her breast, and that when he tries to do it again another time, and then again and again, and eventually worked with the courage to tell her mother in a few years later, but she didn't believe her. And I guess she thought she was lying, and she continued to stay with him. And, of course, it's going to make anyone angry. And to think that there's situations where you don't want to believe such a fucked up thing is happening. But at the same time, that kids just make up shit sometimes with no fucking reason. And unfortunately, and I guess this could even go to the extent of my wife, because she loves so fucking much, that you could be so blinded. You can just put so much of hope, to a person, whether or not they, could have helped you or, showed you a different side of what you were experiencing. That just allows you to kind of sink deeper and deeper into I guess you could say like a swamp or a quicksand that maybe doesn't respond to that damn quickly. So as time progresses, you don't realize how deeper and deeper you find yourself. And never have I ever wanted to hurt. You know what I'm saying? I know I just do it naturally, and I feel like that's on the topic here for another day. But when you have against such strong loves and in such strong things, if someone's a dastardly bastard, you really do need to consider, okay, well then maybe this shit was plausible. Maybe they're being honest. Why would they make up such a thing? So it does hurt me to think that she had gone through that shit. And I'm curious, again, the reason why I mention this is I'm wondering if that, again, nature versus nurture, or that forcing of, what had occurred, if that maybe pushed her to lean the way that she leans. Maybe she doesn't hate men. Why else would you dress like one? Maybe she doesn't fear them. You know what I'm saying? Why else would you, kind of act like one? You know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure whether or not there's deeper resentment way in the fucking back of their head, you gotta believe that it at least influenced them to, find satisfaction or comfort, in the opposite sex. The opposite of the opposite, which is in yourself. Unless you're on some, poly-ish that, sure, free world. But in normal binary, left or right, front to back kind of things, male or female, it would make sense why that would influence and push that way. So again, not to give dudes any more fucking ammunition, when you're trying to holler at a dyke and, okay, she just hasn't had my dick yet, so maybe, that's why it's the way that it is. Calm yourself. Calm yourself, young Negro. Chill the fuck out. There's levels to this shit, and there's deepness, and scars and wounds that we can never comprehend. And if we try to force ourselves into something that ain't gonna turn out pretty, and then your ego's gonna get bros, and then you gonna do something that you shouldn't have done, and then the hammer's gonna fall, and we find ourselves in situations that we shouldn't be in, maybe situations that we find ourselves in time after time again, and think to ourselves, oh, what the fuck? Why didn't I realize this before? Where now it's no longer that ignorance is bliss, but ignorance is causing you to fuck up. And how many fuck ups must it take, before you're depleted? How many licks does it take to get to the, center of a Tootsie Pop? You don't deserve such licks to get down there too. But isn't it curious a question? So I say all to say that it creates a terrible cause and effect, a terrible chain reaction, and unpleasantness for generations to come. How do we stop these things? How do we nip them in the bud? How do we tickle the butthole that needs to shit this thing out so we can, live this thing on correctly? Now, whether or not you believe this is a good transition or not, speaking of shit and motherfuckers doing things correctly. So they've been looking for a new Batman. We're talking entertainment news right now, so I'm going to throw in the new Batman talk. And Ben Affleck, who, whether or not you liked the Justice League movie or the Batman vs. Superman movie or any of the fucking places that he does the, small cameo that he does, no small actors, just, small parts, whatever, or vice versa. I thought he played the, old man Batman just fine. Gray looks good on him, I was hoping that he would have had more time to do a whole fleshed out movie so that maybe you can appreciate the broad roughness of him, But they say that Robert Pattinson, that's right, the pale vampire from Twilight, he's going to play Batman. Now, I haven't looked into any of the feedback. I imagine people are going to fucking throw themselves into fits. But let's look at it from this point of view. Not only has he aged and he's probably matured a little bit better. I forgot what movie I saw where his brother's a retard and they get into some shit. It's a fucking A24 movie too, really dope. Good Night, possibly. Anyways, he played a fucking vampire, son. And the vampire, is that not similar to a bat? And is a fucking bat not the animal spirit of Batman? I feel like it might work. You know what I'm saying? He has that brutish, pale stare. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I feel like it might work, but I'm curious as to what age range they're throwing this shit into. And they're calling it The Batman, so I'm wondering, is this going to be a total fucking uncanon reboot that leads to his earlier years? We're seeing the transition, and I feel bad that I haven't been able to watch the last season of Gotham, because I was actually into the show. For as campy and as cheesy as it was, I was rocking with it. So to think that, that now that shows at the point where this motherfucker suited up, because it was a story, when Batman was still just a kid in grade school or preparatory, wherever the fuck Batman's people live. I don't know. I'm wondering if there's going to be any sort of, and again, I don't believe DC is anywhere fucking coordinated to want to, connect a TV show with an actual featured film. But it's funny that that's kind of where that left off into and where this thing is going into. If it is even that. I don't know. I don't have all the details, but I geeked out, and I'm curious as to what y'all think about this because, again, I don't know if we can ever be satisfied with there being a fucking a proper Batman. Just how I can understand if one, can see themselves as any proper Joker because of the classics that we have with Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson, or the bitching people give about fucking Doctor Who. You know what I'm saying? And all other stuff, which I will not get in sort of those sorts of dorky rhetoric with you, but it's out there, and I kind of can't wait to see what's going on. All right, so, I'm going to have to wrap these things up. I had some science and health things that I wanted to go into, but in all honesty, I'm burnt the fuck out. Actually, which is one of the things I said I was going to mention. Supposedly, they're trying to make that a thing, to where that could be a diagnosis as to, why you're not performing as well as you used to, or why you lost the vigor in which you used to have, or why you feel fucking tormented and abused. And that could just be the shitty line of work that you might be into. I myself included, and I'm a victim of it. And it sucks because I want to be able to help. I want to be able to do more. I want to be able to, further others and kind of create like this karmic domino effect where we're going upstream and, say, making it over the fucking, Mount Everest. Which, by the way, shout out to Mandy Moore, former Dedication, definite Widita, actress, former pop star, starlet. She fucking was like the 11th person this year to make it over. Apparently, a lot of people have been dying and in need of oxygen. Which, why the fuck would you not go prepared with such things if you know that this is one of the fucking toughest mountains to climb? But anyways, I say all that to say I thank y'all if y'all have been listening. I promise you, because of how short this thing is, if you're down, oh fucking well. If you don't, I'm gonna release the second half of the Soap Opera sessions that I did with Mr. Ross Lamar, aka Selecta Slam, who y'all can see week in, week out as well at the Rink, which again I'll put into the links of the show when it comes out, but definitely alongside this as well. So again, thank you so much for listening to the Soap Opera Incognito podcast, the AKA Arizona Soap Podcast, AKA the Spick podcast, where I'm here by my lonesome, swanning it up, fucking pacing about. Microphone didn't want to work. I had to use my field recorder, but still in this fucking sweat box like panic room that I'm in right now, which, I'm very thankful for. Please believe, if y'all want to contribute, become producers of the show, give me a motherfucking swamp cooler up in this bitch, definitely visit patreon.com/Soap Opera. You don't want to do any kind of dedications month in, month out, but want to, toss a couple shackles. Like I said, most social medias and even at Gmail, SOULPAPO, Soap Opera. Motherfucker, even on the Cash App. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So if you feel obliged, then no doubt. If not, hey, keep listening. Hopefully keep liking, subscribing, and adding and forwarding and let motherfuckers know. This one wasn't very funny, even though I gave the advisory that I did. Was I lying? I don't know. Depends on how twisted and demented you are. But most definitely know that I love you. So God bless you. Okay.